How can you extend your reach outside of face-to-face? How can people outside of Sydney reach you? You might have someone in Brisbane that's like, hey, I can't get to Sydney, but I like what you're about. What can I provide them? What ebook, what tutorial, what Zoom consultations? I do multiple Zoom consultations to fix shoulders, and people don't you a physio? Don't you have to touch me? I go, I don't touch clients. What am I going to do? I don't need to. What am I going to massage you? Go to a massage therapist for that. I'll teach you how to move. I'll teach you how to rehab. I teach you the concepts around movement, and then that's how you're truly going to be fixed. I don't need multiple sessions with clients. Orthopedics are changing, man. A lot of the time now, we're actually going away from surgery and rehab. Not many people are actually going through and following up with surgeries anymore. Things are changing a lot. There was a lot going on at that time. We just opened a business,
Yes.
and my training. I was just training so hard because I was almost letting out my stress of running a business on training. So I had
stressful, man.
I had a big program,
business.
and I was lifting so heavy because social media, that was my brand. My image was lifting and training and bodybuilding.
Yeah.
And
So you had to show that off.
yeah, and for me, the week before, actually, I was so primed. I lifted a big deadlift and it moved so easy. I should have gone for the 300 then. Part of the culture that I've learned from the places I've worked before, and even our own gym, was when someone's going for a big lift or a PB, is to support them. Let's just say you're going for this 300 kilo deadlift. There's 20, 30 people there. You're the boss of this business.
And you are the boss.
You've picked this song. You've got the song on full blast. You've gone to lift your deadlift, and right when you're about to lift it, you just feel your bicep tear. I thought to myself, imagine just everyone's filming. Imagine just not moving. And then standing up, the music's still really loud. Everyone awkwardly looks at you, and you're just like, oh, fuck, this sucks.
He's university graduate 1 week, first bodybuilding comp the next week. He puts free weights versus machine weights to the test. He knows how to starve, grow muscle, and enjoy a comp prep at the same time. He'll tear his bicep all for 300 kilos of glory. His life interests stop at 1992. Yep. Souvlaki is a side hustle. He can't help it if you can't fit into those jeans anymore. You probably know I did some research.
I know. Yeah, you did your research.
He's stood over Ian Thorpe.
This is like my classics album.
Well, training him in his gym. Myself and Andrew Locke found out about Paul's secret bicep exercise, and you need a fat grip handle.
Yep. Please
help me welcome a face and a smile that can make you melt and believe everything he says, Paul Xydis.
Beautiful introduction. I appreciate it. Thank you for doing your homework on me. I think that's my greatest hits album that you've strung through on Instagram.
I have.
Some of that's the best snippets of my career so far. But yeah, thank you for having me.
Mate, absolute pleasure. And like I said, mate, look how much I've written. Like, you don't understand. Like, you were quite interesting to go through. But I want to start with something that I feel, it's not about pulling people in, but I just want to know, is bodybuilding at the moment quite negative? And I'll tell you why. Is everyone just nitpicking for fame and glory? And are we paying the price, and are shitheads just complaining in the gym? Because in the past, we didn't complain. The gym was a place to allow us some grace, some outlet, and we didn't talk about it much. All we cared about was food and training and growing muscle. And we thought anything would work in that gym. Just to turn up was enough. And we did religiously turn up. But now it's like the biggest nitpick. And I feel I don't know. I'm not enjoying what I'm seeing, but also I'm not seeing it by athletes. It looks like it's influencers trying to influence and grow IG accounts through the expense of, just the negative. What do you think about what I'm saying?
Well, what year did you start training?
I started training, I was 1998, I believe it was. 1989.
So I started in 2007.
Yes.
And if you look at kind of the landscapes across those two eras, how many people were participating in specific gym work? Not a lot.
No,
there weren't a lot of people.
All.
So it was a very niche demographic of people that you kind of just, bodybuilding kind of called you. You didn't kind of go to it. It kind of something that it intrigued you to an extent where you would just, you'll just go and do it. There wasn't someone telling you to do it. It wasn't so accessible in terms of education, understanding, knowledge of movements. Apparently back then it stunted your growth. There was a lot of negatives around lifting weights. A lot of people would actually go away. Women weren't in the gym as much. Females said, I don't want to get too bulky or too big. A lot of these narratives from 20, 30 years ago were stopping a lot of participation in the gym.
Well, there was no creatures of comfort in there.
Yeah,
there was no air conditioning.
People would go in the gym because we just loved it. And supplement shops were you'd go there, get your protein, and there wasn't that many health supplements at the time. We would just go in, and it was just a weird underground sport. I would buy my muscular development magazine and I'd watch as much content as I could, but it wasn't as accessible.
Principles were never perfect.
Correct.
Swing was big.
Yep.
Swinging, like we're talking about, even spots, mate. Sometimes you didn't get the second one up, but your mate said, "No, we're doing it. We're going to 8 with even spotting for number 2. He'd be there making you scream."
I would wear long pants. I'd put a belt over the top. I'd wear gloves when I started training. I wasn't critiqued in that. I mean, Ronnie Coleman wore gloves.
I had a lot of calluses, but I'll tell you a little bit. The weights were different. They were very grooved metal. It was like it killed you. Everything was different. A lot of it is machines now, but before it was a lot of barbells, dumbbells. That's why we got calluses.
Yeah. And then if you think about that, and then we look at today's market, the major factor now is, there's a lot of accessibility to information, people, knowledge, opinions. Social media has allowed people to, let's just say I have an opinion on, let's just say I say lap pull downs are shit.
Yeah.
Let's just say that. Yeah. So lap pull downs are shit.
Make sure we pass that, Chris.
I tell you lap pull downs are shit. You tell your mate. 3 people know lap pull downs are shit.
Yeah.
If I go now on Instagram and I've got 100,000 followers, I say lap pull downs are shit. 100,000 people share it with another 100,000 people. Now 1 million people think lap pull downs are shit. So in that saying that's where the negativity would kind of sprawl from, is that people's opinions and accessibility to individuals and opinions, it's just broadcast on an international scale that the algorithm just pushes things right through. You have a bodybuilding algorithm. Now someone said that it's on your page. You now share it, send it. So before you know it, I feel like the opinions of people have just become broadcast, and everyone can have an opinion. They can. It's free to have an Instagram, isn't it? I can just create an Instagram and start talking shit.
Yeah, but the thing is, I'm finding that I'll give you an example. Just the last week, I've introduced pasta back, meaning I've been eating a lot of rice and vegetables, and I've lost 20 odd kilos, to come back to where I've always been. I only put the weight on from 51 to 53.
Yep.
Right? A bit of 54 too. And I know why. Don't worry. I know everything. I know why. But one thing I do know is that, especially the last week or two, I've brought pasta back in, and Jesus, the strength and the good fluffiness. The good. The shoulders are popping again, and the chest, because it's got good fluff.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like,
I have pasta every day.
No, but what I'm saying to you is, when I spoke to back in the 80s to bodybuilders, do you know not one of them prescribed steroids? You know what they used to say? You got to eat more, man, and you got to come to the gym. It was very basic, and I actually thought, because I trained, it opened the door. And I'm not talking about eating anything. We never thought about chocolate cake and donuts. I just thought, fuck, I can eat a whole chicken. Because if I eat a whole chicken, listen to me, if I eat a whole chicken, I didn't think the calories, I just thought all that protein was going to turn to muscle for me. And because my mindset was like that, that's how I grew. So in other words, we knew what to eat. We didn't naturally go, nah, man, like, I'll give you an example. I would eat pasticcio. Why not? But I knew veal, chicken, potatoes, rice, no dressing. We're talking about dry as, but the thing is, we ate plenty of it. It was not, man, you can have a packet of chips. This burger to this burger. It wasn't, we just knew it was kind of so real simple. And if we locked in, and it was only 2 seasons in a year.
Mm-hmm. Season A, season B. Yep. It
was off-season clothing, off-season gains. Summer comes, summer clothing, summer lean.
Yep.
And we did that, and each was the progression to put on muscle. Like I said, but today it just seems like bodybuilding has become one word: fat loss.
Yeah.
And it's not. Because if you train, you're doing a good thing to help your fat loss, but you're going to have to eat to put on muscle. Well, hey guys, I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed, who is following us on all platforms, but especially here on YouTube. And if you're listening to us on Spotify, please, if you could do us a big favor, which helps us reach more people, get better bigger, greater. We've already had some great guests anyway. Everyone's been a treat. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell so you're notified every week a new podcast that is launched. And I just want to say a big thank you. But again, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and enjoy watching Muscle Talks podcasts.
Let's put it back to, I mean, most people are trying to make a monetary gain with anything they do, career, life, whatever. Everyone's trying to look at bettering themselves financially, career-wise opportunities. If we use the term build muscle, how many people is that going to appeal to? It's going to appeal to a very specific market.
Yes, of course.
If we use the word fat loss, the general population. Not everyone's sitting here wanting to, look like Dorian Yates in 1997.
No.
But majority of the world, let's just say we've got, how many men and women do you see daily that are, overweight or struggling, just to build that momentum? If you use keywords, trigger words, all these things that we see, there's been millions of dollars worth of research going into them. When you see a marketing campaign or an ad campaign, it's not just someone saying, oh, this sounds good. This is what's going to yield X amount of money in return from the product we're trying to push. So if we've got the word fat loss, now you've got a large market that want fat loss. They don't understand moving properly. They don't understand injury management. They don't understand building muscle, posture, all these things. They're too complex. These notions are way too complex to investigate that they just want to know how to go from 110 kilos to under 100. And that, once you've got that, you're hooked with them forever.
Yeah. No, like I said, I just watching it and the words and I got a calories question in here, but I'll pose it a little bit earlier. I think the introduction of calories, the numbers, I think it was a mastermind, just like big companies made you eat cereal and tell you breakfast is so important and cereals. I think because you can look at the numbers and say, these chips are 92. This ice cream is 92 calories per serving, and you go, oh my God, that chicken breast with the rice is 150 calories. Oh, I can eat the ice cream because that's less calories. Yeah. But little do you know, no, that lean chicken and that rice is so lean that it only does one thing, and it's going to build muscle or build cartilage, it's going to rebuild your body. Let's not just look at it muscular-wise, where the ice cream is going to deplete you.
There's a lot of, when we're talking about nutrition is such a broad topic. And when we do look at calories, calories is a really simplified way to understand what your body needs and your goals. So if my body needs, 2,400 calories to maintain this body weight, then I have a rough understanding of my energy, input, output, all that. Me personally, when I'm prescribing calories or even do my own diet, I'll always prioritize nutrient-dense food.
Of course.
So I'll go for options, whole food options, personally, because there's so many other things when it comes to digestion, insulin. Yes. There are so many functions or processes in the body that I want to maximize, because if I go, and I have in the past, I have done get my calories from less nutrient dense foods, sugar-free drinks, all these other things. My stomach, my guts were a bit off, or I'd have, I would kind of feel not well or nauseous. I just wouldn't feel my body making the most of my goals. But I think there is a happy medium. You can still have a Coke Zero. You can still have sugar-free sources. You can still do all these things, but it just comes with what proportion of your daily intake is it making up. If it's making up 50% of what you're putting in your body, you're not going to feel very good. I got lean my second show. I was fueled by every single sugar-free thing you could put in your body.
Wow.
I abused it because I was so hungry, and it gave me that, that moment of, I get something right now and it's got no calories.
Was that the bit where I'm going to come to it, that it made it easy? Was that your first comp? Is it?
My first comp, I didn't touch any of that, because I didn't, I'll tell you something, I'll tell you the truth. My first comp, I knew nothing about calories.
Right, okay.
I knew nothing about any of this. I didn't I didn't know anything about, macros and calories and how many calories.
How did you get so lean then?
I literally just starved.
Yeah, I've been there. I know. I did the starving. Just smaller meals. Everything went small.
I just literally starved. I didn't have any understanding of the kind of the science behind it. I was naive to it. I made it harder than it needed to be. But I learned how hard my body could go. I'll never want someone to go through that because it wasn't fun. There's so many other ways to do it.
Yeah.
But I learned how hard I could push, and I learned how I could get a better result not doing that ever again.
Yeah.
But as I said, the second comp I did, I learned as I started doing my research, I understood that, hey, I can have these drinks and these things. And yeah, I looked good, obviously, as a progression of my career, but I didn't feel very good when I was consuming them. I mean, my guts were so off. I did my skin. There's so many other things, but you know, as I said, nutrient dense options now down the track, I will always go for. I don't like having too much crap in my diet. I still do. I'm still a human. I still like a Pepsi Max.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm not going to go and drink 2-3 liters of it. I just use my brain, your common sense in that regard.
When people have spoken to me in the past about food and diet, and like I said, don't look at me now, but I've written programs for people. I was a personal trainer once. I did the AIF or FII back in the early 90s.
Yep.
It was only a 5-day course, and I think it cost like $500, $300 right back then. It was St. Leonard's.
Yeah. Oh, AIF at St. Leonard's. I went there. In between school and uni, I did a 10-week course.
Yeah. Well, that was a 5-day course, right?
How good.
And yeah, it was great. And I'll tell you what, well, the one thing that was a standout when I did it, we were in a group setting. They were also teaching, they were also teaching aerobics. So if not only you're learning about aerobics too. So it wasn't just about being a personal trainer. You had to learn about being a professional, even to be an aerobics instructor. Wow. So it was very different. But the one thing the instructor said to everyone in the room was, you're not supposed to keep your clients. You're supposed to send them on their way, because when you send them on the way and they talk about you, you get new clients and you grow by word of mouth of how good you are, and you're sending people on their way. They were trying to say, if you're trying to keep people as a money bag, which a lot of people do, then you're not letting the bird fly and saying, all right, you don't need me as much anymore, or come and revisit me. But what happens is that's when they appreciate you by saying, oh, look, you look much better. What happened? And they say, oh, yeah, I go to Paddo Performance. The coach...
If you've got 10 clients and you've got 10 individuals that service you, and you keep those spots only for 10 clients, your business is dependent purely on 10 individuals.
I know.
Is it a business?
How scary is it?
Is that a business?
No, it's not a business.
Sometimes I say to my coaches, I say, if you've got one client that comes 5 days a week, he's occupying 5 separate spots. What if he's sick?
That's right.
You lose 5 sessions.
I love that.
It goes away. So I would rather you have 10, 20 sessions from different people.
Of course.
Different streams of income. How many of those clients can you move to an online platform to open up that face-to-face slot? Not all clients work well online. So you have to see some prefer face-to-face, some prefer the online. Yeah. How can you extend your reach outside of face-to-face? How can people outside of Sydney reach you? You might have someone in Brisbane that's like, hey, I can't get to Sydney, but I like what you're about. What can I provide them? What ebook, what tutorial, what Zoom consultations? I do multiple Zoom consultations to fix shoulders, and people don't, aren't you a physio? Don't you have to touch me? I go, I don't touch clients. What am I going to do? I don't need to, what am I going to massage you? Go to a massage therapist for that. I'll teach you how to move. I'll teach you how to rehab. I teach you the concepts around movement. And then that's how you're truly going to be fixed. I don't need multiple sessions with clients. One session and a follow-up, I've usually taught them enough where they can actually rehabilitate themselves.
But don't you agree that the reason those that get better and those that don't is, even though you've given the same advice, is the investment they put into themselves? I saw a physio when I was 35. I had inflammation L4 and L5, very common.
Yep.
And it did shoot down my leg, but he didn't call it sciatica. But what he said to me was, well, no one did back then. I don't know, but there was the word sciatica, but it was like sciatica. And I had a juice bar, fresh juices. I used to pick up 20 kilo bags of carrots.
Yep.
So I had to rehabilitate myself while I had a shop, right? And the only time it never hurt is when I had sex and when I worked.
Core was activated.
Yeah, and when I worked, because core was activated. Yeah, core was activated. But I went and saw this guy in Liverpool. And when I saw him, he made me go do x-rays. Came back, he looked at it all. And he goes, right, yeah, I can see that. He goes like this. He said, lie down. He lied down. All he did was stretch me a little bit. And he goes, see me in a week. I said, okay, I'll see you in a week. See him in a week. No. He said, he stretched me. He goes, I need you to do this, this, and this. See me in a week. I said, okay. Went home. Mate, trust me, it was more like movements like this. It was just like on the floor.
Yeah.
Like Pilates, but not even breaking a sweat. Still in pain. Come back. Stretch me a bit. or do what he did. He goes, I want you to do this, this, and this with that. See me in 2 weeks. I went, all right. Did it. Come back in 2 weeks. Again, a little bit of a stretch. Gave me a bit more exercise. See me in 4 weeks. What he said to me was, if you don't do the exercise, you're never going to fix yourself. He goes, I'll give you the exercises. If you do them, in 12 weeks, you're going to be good. In 12 weeks, it was gone. Yeah. Even while I was picking up pineapple boxes and carrot boxes. You know what he said to me at the end? He goes, see you in 12 months. I go, no, you won't see me. He goes, because I stopped doing the exercises. I was back. Yes. And I went, man, I got it again. He goes, you're not doing the exercise, are you? I went, oh. And he goes, what he said to me? See you in a week. Yeah. Do this. And then in 12 weeks, we were back. And then I realized because I possibly have a weak core doesn't discriminate. You can be a fat bastard and have a good core and be solid as a rock and have a shit core. So obviously my core has been compromised because I haven't worked it. So what I've realized is for me to have a good back and good spinal development and good cartilage development to separate the spine, I need to continue doing Pilates style exercises, just core related exercises. But I also did visualization. I actually went into my head and was visualizing my spine and moving things around in my head. Yeah, but that's what I learned, that this guy wasn't about taking my money. I could have been going he could say twice a week, every week, come. He knew and he saw potential in me. He said, well, this guy's, he'll do what I tell him. And you said as well, you don't need, when you said you don't need to touch people, but you can help people anywhere in the world, correct?
Yeah. I bridged the gap. My story with how I got into being a physio was I was a young bodybuilder, went in the gym, trained as hard as I could, did movements and exercise that I just trained with pure intensity. The understanding around technique wasn't there at 15, 16 years old.
As if it was.
When it gets to, when you get to a point where you develop a bit of tendonitis or something where you're limited in doing those movements that you love doing, you go to a physiotherapist, and, the physio at the time would see me weekly, and he wouldn't give me an outcome or understanding of when I was going to get back to doing the things I loved. Yep. He kind of just looked at me and said, well, why would you want to bench press? I mean, like, maybe just do something else. Whereas in my heart, that was something that I wanted to get back to doing. And I got a bit upset. I got the shit, I'm very competitive and very stubborn. So I said to him at the time, I said, hey, I believe that I could get back to doing these exercises far sooner than what you're getting me to do. And he kind of laughed as if he's like, who do you know? What do you know about physio? And I said to him, I want to study to become a physiotherapist, and I want to teach bodybuilders. I want to specialize in bodybuilders. I want to work with bodybuilders because I feel like they're a very misunderstood group of people. If you go to a normal physiotherapist, they're going like, what the fuck's bodybuilding? So I wanted to specialize in bodybuilding, and I wanted to help young bodybuilders stay in the gym because they're at risk most of injuring themselves because they're training at such a high intensity. Anyway, so being my stubborn self, I went to uni, graduated, and straight away just went along the lines of bodybuilding physio, and that's what I've been doing since day one. Now I bridge the gap. So when it comes to rehabilitating clients, let's just say you've got a disc injury, L5-S1, you're someone that I look at that wants to get back to training. I mean, when we've got a 92-year-old grandma that's got a similar injury, that's not my client. I'll refer. I think that's a very powerful tool for physios, is understanding when to refer. I don't actually take on a client that I don't believe will do well under my care. Look, I don't judge them too early. I usually get on the phone call with a client prior to them booking in, and I have a bit of a chat with them and just getting an understanding of their background, their history. If there's someone that has never gone to the gym before, doesn't really want to go to the gym before, is expecting me to just give them a bit of a back rub, then I'll refer. I don't take that client on. I gain all that information from the call. But if it's someone that loves training, will do anything to get back to training, wants to invest, and understands that it's a process, there's a large amount of knowledge they can learn from me when it comes back to getting back to those movement patterns and understanding how that injury came on in the first place. I'm not one to treat the symptoms. I look at understanding the cause. Your lower back injury may not have been from that one time you picked up the box.
It's very Andrew Locke as well, isn't it?
Well, Andrew was one of my mentors early on.
Wow. Yeah.
I met Andrew. I went to his first little seminar that he did. Not many people really knew about Andrew Locke, and he rehabilitated a couple of big bodybuilders in the country, and they said, we've got to get you out there. We've got to get people understanding, because he was stopping people from having surgery. He was getting them back to training with really basic principles.
Oh, that surgery, I've never seen anyone come out of it good.
No,
I don't think there's any statistic that shows any good from it.
Orthopedics are changing, man. A lot of the time now, we're actually going away from surgery and rehab. Not many people are actually going through and following up with surgeries anymore. Things are changing a lot. Like
My mum did a surgery and she's worse for it.
Well, see, as you said, I got my mum out of a surgery and got her into a clinical trial. Instead of doing an ACL
That
repair,
cost my mum a lot.
my mum she rehabilitated her ACL without any surgery, and she's 100% now. So she did it purely with exercise and movement, and she doesn't have an ACL, and it actually was shown to heal back in one of the protocols that she did. She was under a clinical trial with an orthopedic specialist, and she showed that you don't actually need to always get surgery unless you're an elite level athlete that's on a timeline with how long their career is going to go for. If you're someone that just wants to get back to the gym or live a good life, you don't actually need surgery.
Well, you
in most cases.
No, that's okay. Chris will make sure that's a hook bait for us, and just you don't need surgery. We'll go with it as hard as possible, mate. Anything for the gram and anything for YouTube. We want to get this what's it called, collaborative. What's it called? The economy, creators economy. We want to reach a creators economy, mate, but not be Mr. Beast. But then again, that's another story. So there you are on stage, and I've never seen coaches on stage for some reason, but you're on stage. And it is Mike Pearson, and he's actually giving you a huge rap by saying he was told to give up the sport and to take up bike riding and bushwalking, and somehow you were liking his photos. You were a bit of a fan or something, right? And then he reached out to you. He thought, this guy seems empathetic. Like, is that right? Is that the word, empathetic? I think it's like caring position and so he reached out to you, and from the Central Coast, you guys became big buddies, and then he actually moved down to Sydney so you can get him back to a sport that he loves dearly.
Well, Mike was an elite level athlete before I met him.
Yes.
Like, I'm not going to take any credit for that. I mean, Mike Pearson was, he'd won universe titles in his field in juniors, and he was always. I was going to a lot of shows at the time. I was a big bodybuilding fan. The Australian scene was rocking in 2013, 14. It was really good going to the shows. There'd be a lot of competitors. There wasn't as many divisions back then, so everyone was just doing bodybuilding. There wasn't that many divisions.
We'll talk about that too, because I think that's something that if they're not careful, it's going to be like the Olympics.
Yeah.
It's going to lose its shine. But go on.
And I saw, from the time I saw Mike compete as a junior in 2014, and I go, man, this kid, he's outrageous. He's got a crazy physique. And then I followed him on Instagram. And then just over the years, I would see him at the shows, like the expos and all that. And, I'd see his progress, and he was a great athlete. And I thought that he was probably going to become one of Australia's next pros. But then, funny enough, 2018, 19 opened my facility. Yeah. And then in Paddington that was, and I remember Mike reaching out to me, messaged me, and he just said that he had an accident with his pec, and that he just wanted someone to rehabilitate him or assist him and guide him that understands where he wants to take his career, his physique. I mean, the advice he was given early on was, you're not really going to get back to, doing certain movements or certain, or looking a certain way or building that muscle back up to where it needed to be for that level that he wanted to get to. But I mean, that was one of the hardest injuries I've ever had to rehab.
Wow.
Not there, traditionally when it comes to a pec injury, usually the pec just detaches off the bone. The surgeon then just puts it back. 10 to 12 weeks, the athlete can get back to moving. Yeah. That's, you see a lot of rugby league players, a lot of athletes, they'll reach their arm out, weight will go through it, it'll detach the pec. Straightforward surgery. Mike's was a little bit different. When he did his pec, there was so much blood and swelling and fluid at the time. When they went in for an MRI, they actually couldn't actually see what had occurred in that. So the doctor just assumed, okay, well, it's probably a pec tear. He did it bench pressing. He's probably detached it. So he went in there wanting to reattach that tendon. But when he went in there, the tendon was still attached. He ruptured the muscle belly in two pieces. You can't stitch or sew or move a muscle belly. You can't. It was just bunched up and torn. And that was, the doctor just went in there and cleaned out some of the scar tissue and blood clots. But he just kind of said, hey, this is your pec now. You know what I mean? This is
bike riding.
This is what your pec's going to be. Again, early on, when you're looking at something that's inflamed and aggravated, it's going to look a lot worse than what it was. when Mike came to me, he came to me in a sling. You know, he did just have surgery because they went in there and scoped it and had a look so that it was a surgery. But then, you know, we just began with shoulder. It was like a shoulder rehab case. We got the back strong. We got him squatting and deadlifting and all the exercises that Mike could do. We just got him really strong at it and got the training back, you know, I think it was more of a mental thing for him as well, just being able to get back and being told, hey, man, you're going to be able to train. Like it's someone that was just one person's advice. And you know what? It's a credit to him and his mental strength as well, because he just kept going. And before you know it, the pec looked great. You know, it looked really good. And he won a super heavyweight Mr. Australia title, and then he was 1 point off winning a pro card. And we both discussed. We actually said that, you know, thank God he didn't win that pro card, because it kept the fire in the belly. Where his physique from 2021 to right now, he's about 5 weeks out. How he looked then to how he looks now, it's just worlds apart. So he's worked harder than.
Is he competing?
Super heavies. He'll compete at the IFBB. Yeah.
New South Wales
and nationals.
Of course, you go to nationals and going for pro card.
Yeah.
What we have.
Look, I can't see unless Ronnie Coleman comes out of retirement in peak physical shape. I mean, Mike does look phenomenal at the moment.
Well, all I know is he looks unrecognizable. He's massive.
He's huge.
And he's hiding everything. It's all hidden at the moment. He's not showing much off.
No, he's not. No, he likes to go through the processes and... You know,
it's very old school, you know. We never showed off anything. Do you know, like you said how you used to go training, man, we didn't know shorts and T-shirts. It was the worst tracksuit, the worst shoes, the worst sloppy Joe. If it was ready for the bin, it was perfect for gym.
That was me.
Isn't it funny? And your kidney belt, man, that's on top of everything. And you knew that if you were wiping sweat off your bro, you knew you had a good session. And if you and your mate were wiped and you needed to sit in the cafeteria at the gym, you know, that wasn't really a cafeteria, but you sat in the chairs, you knew that was a good session because you needed a few minutes. You needed 15 minutes before you jumped in the car.
Yeah, I was gross. I used to just wear the grossest things when I used to train.
I loved it, man. It was gross
Times have changed a little bit now. I mean, I have to be the face of the business I run, and I like to be a bit cleaner, but I must say that I do miss those days where I would wear, you know, my grandma would go buy these cheap trackies from the markets, and they were like
best and less.
Yeah, tragic tracksuit pants, and I used to just wear a big jumper that had holes in it. But I did some big sessions.
The only time we changed was when the MC Hammer pants came in.
Yeah.
When the MC Hammer pants came in the early 90s, honestly. But you know what was funny? We'd wear them out. We'd wear them to the clubs. Because it was like, they were like so colourful. They'd be black. Listen, they'd be black, and inside would be pink.
Yeah, wow.
Or electric blue, or some lion print inside the.
It's amazing that was in fashion. Then it went so far out of fashion. Now the retro is back in. People like the retro look now.
But it was very much. It was very much. What's that singer? That talks about buying things from Vinnie's. Matt Lamore. It was very Matt Lamore back then, like that kind of fashion. Because, man, it wasn't. We didn't even know. Like, one guy would be wearing Slazenger, and the next guy would be wearing Nikes or whatever it was. It was just a mixed, colourful, crazy look we went in with. It was just wild, man. Honestly, it wasn't normal. No one had a dress code. It was no dress code. There was no dress code. But I love that area. But what about you then? I mean, I'm going to go to a philosophy question because I always hit the philosophy questions. But I wanted to, since we're going into your kind of experience and what you bring to bodybuilding, you actually did an active rehabilitation approach back in 2019 where you really kind of needed surgery on a deadlift that you said to yourself, I just tore it before I'm lifting the press. You tore your bicep, but it was a moment of 300 kilos, and it was pain or gain, an element of glory. And you said, "I'm going for glory." And as soon as you got it up, you were happy, and then you just let it go, man.
Well, that was
some big news. Our own training app, together with Reece Price, a well-renowned trainer, also bodybuilder and competitor. Together, we've collaborated to put together this program called BILT. It's for beginners. It's for those that are starting out, who haven't been around for a while, who want to re-engage but don't know where it all started and how it begins. Very simple programs, home, office, outdoors, even the gym. This training program is amazing. So if you haven't been to the gym for a while, you're looking to get started, you want a friend to come and join, be part of this gym community, this program is what you want to give them. This is what you want to start with. So I'm not going to go on any further. You know where to find it. Let's get back to what we do best, and that's Muscle Talks Podcast.
It's funny because at the time there was a lot going on at that time. We just opened a business,
Yes.
and my training. I was just training so hard because I was almost letting out my stress of running a business on training. So I had
stressful, man.
I had a
Gym
big program,
business.
and I was lifting so heavy because social media. That was my brand. My image was lifting and training and bodybuilding. And
So you had to show that off.
yeah, and for me, the week before, actually, I was so primed. I lifted a big deadlift, and it moved so easy. And I should have gone for the 300 then, but it actually taught me a lot about my own programming and how I program clients.
Okay.
I went 1 week too long in a program, and that 1 week, my body was a little bit fatigued at that point of the program, and the weights weren't moving as well as they moved the week before when I was warming up. But I had it in my head that was the day to do 300. So I just learned a lot about, when you're moving a certain way, go for it on that day, even if it's a week before that you'd plan to do that number. There's a lot of factors when it comes to peaking a strength athlete. Strength athlete's very different to bodybuilding, and I love having a hybrid of the two because I do love powerlifting. I do love elements of powerlifting, and I think they align beautifully with rehabilitation and correct movement and physio. Powerlifting's got a better backbone with that, and I use those principles to my bodybuilders. That's why I get a lot of my bodybuilders squatting and deadlifting, not too heavy, but even just getting those basic movement patterns right. And I learned a lot about that. Anyway, I went an extra week too long in the program. Part of the culture that I've learned from the places I've worked before, and even our own gym, was when someone's going for a big lift or a PB, is to support them, to crowd around that platform, create a bit of atmosphere, put the music up really loud. I'm lucky that I've always trained in gyms that we've had access to putting the music on, and so we would put music on. So let's just say you're going for this 300 kilo deadlift. There's 20, 30 people there. You're the boss of this business.
You are the boss.
You've picked this song. You've got the song on full blast. You've gone to lift your deadlift, and right when you're about to lift it, you just feel your bicep tear. I thought to myself, imagine just everyone's filming. Imagine just not moving. And then standing up, the music's still really loud. Everyone awkwardly looks at you, and you're just like, oh, fuck, this sucks. And then you put the music, and you just sit there. So I'm like, it's already torn. I may as well have it gone and get the 300 or attempt it. And I did it. Yeah, I lifted the numbers. Look, I was lucky that it didn't detach off the bone. It didn't detach off the bone. It was a high grade too. It went straight through the muscle belly, and it went black the next day.
I saw
it was
the
a horrendous
swelling.
shithouse. Yeah. But I got the number, and look, to be honest, wasn't the smartest thing to do. But I got it. That's what mattered.
It's funny. I just got emotional for some reason. It's not, because I tell you something. It seems like you, and I kind of want to bring in your family a little bit shortly, but you either you bought into it, or you do the hard yards to make it in this world. And if you're not tenacious and you're not able to take scrutiny, pain, negativity, but not from you, hitting towards you, and you can't look in hindsight to try to navigate yourself out. If you keep just wanting to repeat the same problems, the same mistakes. And I think with you, it seems like you like to learn lessons. It seems you're the type of person that, you just gave me the whole analogy of the whole thing, right? So you're saying that moment, everyone was there. And you said, this thing's going to cost me, but we're going for it.
Yeah.
But the way you speak about it is to say, not look at me, just saying like, there's so much I learned from that experience that I hope no one goes through it. But you may need to go through it, but let's hope you don't, through the lessons of my own mistakes. You know what I'm trying to say to you?
Well, the best way that I can, comfort or understand a client's needs is actually telling them I've been through this. I've rehabilitated. Yeah. I've rehabilitated this injury. I've got practical experience.
Yeah.
When someone says to me, hey, I want to get back to deadlifting. I want to get back to this. I'm just like, hey, this is what I do. I've got these runs on the board. These are the athletes I've worked with. I've worked with myself. Like they actually can, once Once you've got a client and athletes have a certain mindset, they're quite erratic and quite anxious because they identify with their sport and they want to get back to performing at a very high level. Once you break down that barrier, that trust barrier with them, and they trust you, once they're mentally okay with you, half the rehab's done. Because when they trust you, if you tell them to do something, they'll do it. When there's no trust there, they're not going to do what you say. So early on when I do screen a client, and I do bring up these examples, I've had clients in the past that have hurt biceps, backs, pecs. And then once I actually just get them on the phone, have that chat, what happens is they're so excited for that first session.
The shoulders drop.
They're so excited because
they're breathing better.
Yeah, they're like,
talking
hey,
better.
this guy knows how to help me, not just fix the bicep, but get me back to training and performing at a higher level. That's what my job is. It's not, I refer, as I said, one of my biggest strengths is the ability to know which client will work well with me, my principles, and which client will work well with part of my team or even someone else. Referring is a big skill. I don't look at every client and say, I want that client, because I don't have the time to take on 30, 40. I don't have that time anymore. I've got multiple other things that I'm doing. I do quite a lot. So,
well, you're also a businessman, and you got to be careful because that's a skill in itself. And if you are wanting to be in business in the profession that you're in, you got to be able to lead people and be according to having that space alive for people to come, like clients.
I've got a big team.
And you've got a team that you need to, because that team feeds, not only are you feeding that team feeds their life, but also the fact you keep the doors open for clients to come to it. Like, your responsibility is big and it's great. And the thing is, like you said, if you've got to know how to manage yourself and obviously give 100%, but you're leading by example. There's so many facets to running a business. And I think your family is a little business orientated, if I do recall. I want to go to that in a second. But before we do it, I want to ask a bit more on this. Do you think visualization helps?
Without a doubt.
Do you use visualization yourself?
I do, I use elements of it. I always, whether it comes to the main area I do use that is rehab and movement.
How?
So, you can't let a weight or a number or an exercise or a movement defeat you before you've even done it. You have to visualize yourself succeeding, take out those negative thoughts. I'll have times where they'll be like, hey, every time I think about getting back to a bench press, I think about that pec tearing, or I think about, that bicep tearing. How do I get rid of that? So I say you have to visualize yourself performing that exercise over and over again and over and over again and over. Before you know it, if you've lifted the 300 in your head before you've done it, you've beaten it. Don't let it defeat you before you walk up to that barbell. If the first thing I was thinking, even recovering from that 300 deadlift, every time I looked at a deadlift, I was like, I'm going to fucking tear this bicep again. So I had to take away the thought right before I lifted this weight of, oh my God, the bicep's gone, to, hey, no, it's not going to go. So visualizing in rehab is people generally have these moments where the injury goes or it snaps or it tears or it pops, and understanding that when we're building new habits and new movement patterns, you have to visualize that a lot to allow you to not allow the movement to mentally overcome you or beat you. So I do use that quite a lot in strength and rehab and movement is performing repetitions constantly in your head. It's very important. Or even just closing your eyes and feeling the muscle, feeling the movement, things like that.
It's funny because I had a motorbike accident at 21. A car did a U-turn in front of me. My bike jackknifed. I hit the car. My motorbike hit a parked car. I can't remember hitting the car though. I just remember my ass coming off the seat. Dislocated my whole leg out of my hip. Traction for 4 weeks in hospital.
Dislocated hips are very, very, very serious injury.
Fucking oath. And I've been.
Do you know how much force it takes to dislocate a hip? A lot of force.
I smashed into a car. I don't remember.
A lot of force dislocated.
Yeah, I dislocated my whole leg out of my hip.
Yeah.
And I was on traction for 4 weeks in hospital. They said 6. I said 4, and I use visualization every day. And I can squat, lift, deadlift. I've got no problems with my legs. But I'll tell you something funny. I still ride motorcycles, but I started riding a Harley Davidson at the age of 27.
Wow.
So I had a Harley, still got the same Harley, still got it. We've been together for nearly 30 years, right?
You couldn't let it defeat you.
No, but yeah, I could. No, it wasn't just about defeating it, just something about, like, everyone, it's funny, when you see motorbike riders, you go, oh, he looks like a motorbike. Like, I look like nothing. I just, into things, you just, like, I ride motorcycles. I've got 9 bikes, by the way.
Beautiful.
I've got 9 bikes. But when I ride my Harley, I just ride it. Every time I get on my super bike, I got a CBR Repsol 1000.
Yeah.
Right. Every time I jump on it, I get scared and I don't ride well. I just don't ride well. I just overbrake. I just don't ride good. I mean, I know why I don't ride good because I had an accident on a superbike. When I ride the Harley, the noise, everybody gets scared. The guy turns around. No, I turn around my bike. The guy goes 5 kilometers behind, stops tailgating me.
Yeah.
But with the superbike, everyone's in my way. But when I'm riding, I've got a bit of. But the way I beat it is that I say to myself, if you don't face your fear, you'll be in fear. And also I know the best way to ride is to get home safe. And I just don't go off and show off. I don't ride to show off in front of you down the street and you go, oh, look how fast he went. It's just, mate, look at my bike. I'll take off maybe a little bit or I'll give it
the same thing applies to training.
Yes.
People showing off, they're the ones that hurt themselves.
That's right. There you go.
It's not the ones that are following a program with a coach being safe with certain numbers. It's the ones that, they just go for hell out of nowhere. Not in the right circumstances.
So you got people that you go, what happened when you went out? You went to a gym you've never been to, and there were some big boys there, and they challenged you, and they go, yep, and you go.
They don't follow a program.
Yeah, you gotta play homage to the not. I wouldn't say stay in the injury. You just got to remember what was it that created that injury, and when you're out there, you got to know. Just because someone's challenging you in strength at the time. And you could outdo them. That's the moment you got to realize, give that guy the glory for the day. Yeah. You don't need his glory. You don't need to show off. And I think what I'm saying is when I ride my super bike and I get young guys coming past me and doing stuff, like I ride great. I ride very well. I'm not afraid of nothing. But what I'm saying is, I ride a lot smarter, but it's just, I can't shake. When I get on my super bike, and it was funny because I didn't get any super bikes for a while. I just had my Harley. And then when I got a super bike one day, I said, why am I riding it so bad?
But then you got a lot more to lose now than what you probably did at 21. You got your kids.
But that can't stop me, man.
No, it can't. But I'm saying that's probably one of the factors in you've got a lot more at stake now.
Yeah, I don't think of that. I just think like it just brings back. I think it's just innate. But I use it as to ride better because I don't ride any. I think I still ride good. I think I'm just a hard critic on myself.
Yeah.
But I'm going to bring up something. The strongest man in the world, Eddie Hall.
Yep.
I was watching. He lifted 500 kilos.
Yep.
And I'll let you know that he actually went to a professor to want to beat that record. And the professor told Eddie Hall, he said to him, this is what he said to him. Sat with a scientist. Sorry, sat with a scientist, and the scientist said to Eddie Hall, told him that he won't be able to lift 500 kilos off the ground. It's not humanly possible. That's what he told Eddie Hall. And then he goes, then what's going to get me to lift that off the ground? And he said to him that you have to go beyond human. And he goes, what's beyond human? And he said, I'll explain it. When a woman is in a car accident and her kids are under the car, she gets superhuman abilities to lift that car off her children. So what he said to Eddie Hall is, you need to go into fight or flight. So Eddie Hall said that when he lifted that 500 kilos, he thought about his kids under a car, and that's what lifted them. So it wasn't, he had to go beyond the expectation of a human being. So do you...
Without a doubt, the human body is not designed to constantly work at full capacity.
Yes.
It needs to keep something in the tank for emergencies.
Yes,
your body's not going to sit here and use 100% of its muscle fibers when lifting to, get this cup and have a sip of water. You're not using all your muscle, nor are you using all that muscle when you're training. Your body can't just use everything.
No.
When part of being or progressing in the gym for young athletes early on in the training, it's not even about building muscle. It's about recruiting more of what they've already got.
Yes.
Your body's still trying to understand recruiting more muscle. And look, I'm not so well versed on the exact science behind this, the exact literature behind how much muscle is used in times of fight or flight, but there has been many cases shown that humans can exhibit extraordinary strength in times where they need to. And it goes to show that the body it's got such an adrenaline spike where, you leave yourself open to tearing muscles and tearing ligaments and tendons, but in that time it doesn't matter because you need to do something that's life or death. And that has been shown before, yeah.
It's just incredible. So what came first? Because it's like the chicken and the egg with you. Is it bodybuilding, powerlifting, or physio?
Bodybuilding was the first one.
Powerlifting.
The love for powerlifting came a lot later in my development. I mean, first thing for me was bodybuilding. I fell in love with just lifting weights. I just loved it from such a young age and the look of it. And I, watched a lot of wrestling as a kid, and I was just always so intrigued by, where the body can go and how we can get there. And bodybuilding was the first thing that really just drew my attention and my kind of passion and love early on. And then from there, I just asked myself the question: how can I make a career out of bodybuilding?
So why wasn't it PT?
I felt like I had more to give. I
Okay.
felt like I could. I was pretty good at school.
Okay.
I was. My parents invested. The one thing they did, which was they invested in schooling for me, and they had potential to do well in school, and I was always a good student. So I thought, what, I'm not going to just. I want to see what's the furthest I can go with this career. I looked at, I had a career advisor at school, and she said, I go, where can I take human movement? What's the furthest degree I can take without being a doctor? Because I felt that would have gone a bit too far. I didn't want to do that. So
Did that cross your mind?
I didn't. No, never. I didn't have any passion for that. It wasn't something I was.
Could you become
one? No, I don't have the patience to go through what they go through.
No, but the intelligence?
Oh, potentially not now. I could never go back and sit back at school.
You just don't seem like a doctor.
I didn't want to. No, for me,
but your intelligence is.
If I forced myself and pushed myself beyond, you can do anything you want. I mean,
Just
there's always a
you
way.
intrigue me because you don't have the exterior of what your interior is like, and that's what's kind of very intriguing about you. For a lot of people, like I said to you, I think I told you that my cousin is Giourgis Performance.
Yeah.
And he's a doctor.
Yeah.
It's funny. I said to him when he was running rugby league, I said, because do you know there was times that they sent the team doctor home because he was sick, and he's on Australian tours, and they said, George, could you step in?
Yeah.
And I go to him, how did you feel when you saw head high tackles or people on the concussed on the ground? He goes, for a second, I turned into a doctor. But he goes, but when I saw the medical stuff go to him, I went back to football.
It was like Dr.
I
Nathan.
switched
Dr.
off.
Nathan Gibbs was my sports doctor growing up,
yes.
so another South Sydney player.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I said, I mean, I looked at, what's the furthest I could take this career, and physiotherapy was a degree that was really hard to get into. And I go, well, I could bridge physio and training and movement. It's something that I could bring it all together. It was a great degree, something that I could be very proud of, something hard to get through, but also I could line it up with my passion and my love. So bodybuilding and physio, and then, the area that I got into after, I worked with a lot of power lifters at a gym, and there was a lot of elite level athletes, and then I met Dr. Andrew Locke, and we used powerlifting principles and movement for programming, and then I kind of tried my best to bring it all together, and it's kind of like a hybrid thing now with a mixture of hypertrophy, bodybuilding, and physio. And then I thought, how can I bring this even further? Let's open up a facility. And now that facility is something there, I get to train myself, I get to train my clients, I get my community, and then it feeds other parts of my life, career-wise, but then that's just, it's a hobby that pays the bills as well, and I love it.
So you graduated in 2016.
Yep,
And 2 days later you competed.
I did, yep.
And you said uni was incredibly difficult. You struggled through it. You had to repeat a year for failing 2 subjects, but you stayed committed and you finished your degree, and your passion for bodybuilding together. So how did you, with your first comp, how did it come into play just when you were finishing your university degree? Because that's kind of like, did you know the home run's coming, now I can go compete? Or was it just timing?
It just the way it timed. I mean, I met the right people. That wanted to help me out with competing, and I just I knew that I knew that between graduating uni and working and finding a job, I knew that I was going to have time or energy. I just wanted to expend something, so I thought, well, now's the perfect time to fulfill this passion of mine. I've always trained so hard, and I've never competed, and I really wanted to get on stage. It was something that I still qualified as a junior. I think that was one of the main factors, where I was just a junior bodybuilder still. I wanted to, compete as a junior before I went into the open men's, and I managed to get it all in within a 20-week block after uni. And I just had so much energy. I just didn't give a shit. I just went as hard as I could. I didn't really care. For me, it was just so single-minded back then. I would have changed a lot of things looking back, but all I wanted to do was get on stage.
Well, so Tell me quickly about your family, because they're quite creative family, quite business orientated, and you speak highly of them, which is great. I'm not saying that people don't speak highly of their families, but tell me about how you actually said your mum's your hardest critic.
Yeah, my mum's actually unbelievable what she does. She's the best hairdresser in the world. I mean, she's not just someone that's like
best hairdresser in the world.
yeah, and not just someone that's like, yeah, I just do like bridal and wedding hair. My mum's been on international campaigns for, she's done Nicole Kidman's hair, Kate Blanchett's hair. She did, Natalie Portman. So she's done Dior campaigns, Milan Fashion Week, Paris Fashion Week. My mum's paid internationally to go. She's been to Cuba, Morocco. She goes all around the world doing gigantic ad campaigns for Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, Elle magazine, all during the 90s when it was at its peak. She's created looks for some of the biggest international designers in the world, and she's still working hard now. Like, she was just in London last week. She's sponsored by Dyson, Weller. She's a big ambassador for big, large companies, and she's always had, her and my dad have run businesses here. They had 3 hairdressing salons, and at its peak, there was like 75 staff. And so and it's not just, she could have sold out and franchised her company long ago, but she didn't want to, because she wanted to look after the top elite level superstar clientele. So she's just very good at what she does. So growing up, I always saw her just going for it. She traveled the world. There wasn't Google Maps back then. There wasn't any itineraries. She would just travel and meet people and bring those inspirations back and grow her salon. And I've seen people leave and get fired and grow and build, but it's just shown how much resilience they've built, a whole business, a whole life from that. And I thank them for that, because the best knowledge, you don't need a business degree or certificate. You just got to watch and ask questions. I've taken a lot of those lessons now and put them into my business. And, things have changed a lot now since back then. And it's a bit humbling now, because I'm helping my parents retire now, trying to find ways where they can pull back a little bit on their end. So it's gone a full 360 now, and which is nice. But yeah, they've done very well, my parents, but self-made. That's what I like. They weren't given a thing, and they just worked hard. And my mum's the best of the best in her field, which is amazing.
Wow, it's kind of like the best of the best. Makes you want to be the best of the best in your field too.
Yeah.
It's a funny and old tradition. Also, I want to ask you, why are you so nostalgic? Why is the past such a big thing with you? Why do you only get to 1992, and how come you don't go any further than that?
I just feel there was it was just very different growing up. Maybe it's just something because when I was younger, the things that hit harder when you're younger. But I don't know, things just felt a little bit different from movies, music, just overall the sense of achievement, accomplishment. Everything was just a little bit more hardcore back then. I just aligned with it a little bit nicer.
It is
whether
different.
you watch a movie these days and, it's all about this, making everyone happy versus, watching Bruce Willis and Arnold Schwarzenegger just shoot everyone up. Like, this is just things that, I generally love how things were back then. I mean, even from wrestling, things were not censored. The censorship was a lot less. I felt there was a lot more passion behind the music. There were superstars back then. People were very talented. They weren't just people that look good in front of the camera. But I don't know. They're just things I felt
to be a superstar, you had to be a superstar back
I
then.
felt like talents back then there was a lot more talent that was reaching the forefront. And I feel like that era will never really be replicated. I feel like a lot of the singers and superstars and movies from today's age don't stand the test of time. Well, we'll see. But I feel like those ones are the ones that people revisit, and they want to look back on.
When you talk about like wrestling, Randy Savage, he was the way he characterized himself for us, and Hulk Hogan. I mean,
Ultimate Warrior, Scott Steiner,
Triple H. It was just crazy. These guys knew, and did you know a lot of them? Do you know when they actually realized how much stardom they got? Is when they went to other countries outside of America, and they created this big, like, entertainment, and they realized we're entertainers, and then they took the entertainment level. And I'll just let you know that all of us, including yourself, while we are switching on cameras and while these are screens, if you don't think you're an entertainer, then you best just get back to whatever else you want to do.
Yeah.
But there's an entertainment element.
100%.
Once you understand that and play homage to it and be good at it, because I think I play long game, so I think to myself, I'm just not here to, like I said, it's not just to try to make someone like me. It's kind of like, where do you fit in? How does my character? I've realized there's a character when it comes on to this platform, so I have to come in with a character.
Yep.
He's a bit goofy. They probably think he's a bit dumb. He's doesn't read. No, but you know what I'm trying to say to you. Yeah, but the thing is, at the end of the day, I know what I'm thinking inside my head. And I think tenacity, and like you said, your parents being self-made and wanting to be the best at the best, I think that should never stop. And I guess it never stopped in them, and that's why they keep going and keep doing what they do.
I just look at my mum, and she's very, very stubborn. And will I ever probably get to the level that she got to in her field? Probably not. Maybe, I don't know. But all I know is that no matter what, she just keeps going. And every time she gets challenged by anyone, the new generation, anytime she gets challenged, I know that she is able to find or tap into another gear that can keep her so on top of it.
I was going to ask you, give us one thing that can make you the number one. Don't give me a long, when I say don't give me a long sentence, give me the one thing. When you said she can work that out, is that what it is? Is it to say relevant?
I think
to know your competition?
It's changing with the times.
Right.
My mum's able to, she never sat back and said, it's just getting too hard now to stay up to date. My dad's a bit like that.
Of course.
But my mum, when things got a bit challenging with the social media and all this, she just hired a social media manager. She hired someone to film. She brought her salon or her image or her brand to this generation, and she's still relevant to this generation. Anything from her look, her image, everything, who she's working with, she just was able to adapt. And I think when you stop adapting with anything, when you aren't, taking new principles or staying relevant to a current audience, I think that's when you start to kind of phase your way out of whatever you're doing in life. It's like new doctors, if you're up to date with the new research and knowledge, and, you're going to get new clientele because everyone's very empowered now. Everyone does their own research. But if you're still stuck in the 1980s with, boiled eggs give you cholesterol, you're being redundant now. You're moving part. You're like a dinosaur. So you have to stay up to date, still stay true to your principles, and still stay true to things that you value. But you have to be very aware of where things are going, what's in, what's trending. You have to, because we can sit here and say how shit things are now, but guess what? At the end of the day, someone's out there making $10 million just talking about what's current.
I find it hard too, though.
It is hard.
No. Even myself, some of the stuff, even the stuff I do, like some of the social media stuff you see. I don't know if you saw my 3-finger thing.
Yeah.
Trust me, I'm ready to delete it. I'm ready to delete it but I know I've got to show this comical, like it's kind of like, how do I keep someone to the end of the video and how does it all work? But what I'm saying is I'm not used to that. I just want to tell people it's good food. Go get it. What are you doing?
Do you know what the beautiful thing is? There's another day.
Yeah.
Whatever you posted yesterday, there's tomorrow.
No, but what I mean is I'm happy with it, but I'm not comfortable with it.
Yeah, I understand.
That's what I'm trying to say. Like you have to get with the times.
And you got to be very comfortable being uncomfortable.
And
you got to be very comfortable
being uncomfortable. And that's what I realized. And like I said to you that I've realized there has to be a character for what I'm doing.
Yep.
And then when I'm out of that character, I just have to be like me, outside the character. And I think your mum just engages in, she knows when it's game time, showtime, competitive time. Yeah. And there's, like I said, it's now, it's also adapting. Because I know we're going to finish up shortly because you've got to go for your client. And I could talk to you forever, and I've got so much more things I want to talk to you about.
We could do a part 2 eventually.
I think we can do a part 2. But let's do quickly with Andrew Locke, because, I mean, obviously he's quite the character. But let's go with a little bit of an exercise that you used a fat grip to get constant tension on a cable type machine to do a bicep curl. Is that still relevant? Explain that.
Well, you know what? At the time, we're always trying to innovate with exercises or coming up with understanding of what's another exercise we can add in, I like to try something, implement it in my training, and then give feedback on it. So at that time in my training, with the fat grips, I find that, you've got a lot more of your flexor muscles are working. So I might have said in that post that it's more bicep. It may not be more bicep, but it's definitely more forearms working. So if I was to go back and revisit that, I would probably say whole arm development. Okay, yes. Because again, when we've got an increased grip, we've got more of our flexor forearm muscles working. You did
explain that in that video.
Yeah, yes. So I think as a whole rounded exercise, that's something that I do love to incorporate. In my current training right now, I'm not using fat grips, but I like to perform an exercise, see it through for a phase or a program, analyze the results, swap it in for something else, get results there, and then potentially revisit it after. So I don't keep things in the programs. Mm-hmm. I don't keep things in programs for too long. Look, there's staple exercises like your squats, your deadlifts, these things, but rep ranges, tempos, And executions, I like to phase because I do the same thing time in, time out. My body's going to adapt to it. And I'm not getting that stimulus from it as I would if I was to substitute it out or adjust a handle, adjust a tempo, add a pause. I like to run things for a period of time.
You have to.
Evaluate and then swap it and then potentially revisit it.
I think that's where it's all gone wrong. Back in the past, we would stick with an exercise for 12 weeks till we got it right, till we fixed it, till we saw growth, and then we changed the routine.
Because at week 7, let's just say you've done the full stack on the leg press for 20 reps. What are you going to do next week?
That's right.
What's going to happen next week? Are you going to do the full stack for 21 reps,
for
22 reps? And before you know it, it's like, well, best to sub this out because you might go one more week and tear your quad tendon.
100%.
So you sub it out, build up another exercise, then revisit that leg press, potentially stronger. You can start it and build it up to potentially getting 25 reps. It's just about knowing when the end of an exercise in a program. Most people go 1 week too many, and like me, they tore their bicep.
Yeah, no. Paul Ribas, physio_pro, Paul Ribas, Brazilian guy.
Yeah.
I think he's trained at your gym.
Yeah, he was a member for a bit, yeah.
Did you help him out with his shoulder?
No, I didn't. No.
Well, his shoulder's back. He had a problem with his shoulder. Maybe it's just the energy of your area.
Yeah, he was training at our gym for a little bit of time.
Yeah, he asked the question. He wants to know when are you competing next?
Ooh, when am I competing next? I don't have any short-term competitive aspirations right now. I'm just enjoying eating and growing and building and training. And, I've got an app with my partner, Danielle, that we're launching soon. And
how's that going?
Very good. That's been a 3-year project. So that's something, again, to scale our business, continually adding to our gym. There's a lot of things that I'm working on behind the scenes. So competing right now is probably not at the forefront of my brain. It's always there because I'm always training to better my physique. But I'll probably be looking at competing. It won't be in the next 12 to 18 months.
Okay, no. Okay. Well, that's the answering Paul is. But I also wanted to ask, before we go over the body quickly, what's that machine, man? You got this machine that is like phenomenal. Wait, let me find it. I think it was on page 1. Let me find it. I know, look at me. Where's page 1?
The pages. I'm flattered. There's so much questions for me.
I had so many we could have gone for days, me and you. The Rogers athletic squat. That machine looks wild, man.
Yeah,
that looks good. Yeah,
no one's got that piece. I
had to bring that up.
I've handpicked everything in that gym.
Yeah, that's why.
Look, Daniel and I, we've worked together to handpick everything in that gym. And everything in that gym has a purpose. I haven't cut any corners. We haven't definitely not cut any corners there, and everything. And that machine.
It's good for everyone to hear this on the podcast, by the way.
Yeah, that's a machine that mimics a squat pattern beautifully. It's a machine that gets.
I saw it, man.
Yeah, it's awesome. It gets ripped off and mimicked by multiple companies, but that's the authentic piece. It's a piece that it's actually designed to in the States. It's a company that work with NFL teams, a lot of elite level athletes, and they build equipment, heavy duty equipment for whole body strength and conditioning. So that's something that I love. It's a great accessory to a squat. It's a great exercise that I give people if they can't squat. You know what I mean? It's great.
I've heard by looking at it, it looks like it takes a lot of the thought and anxiety away to just getting in there and getting a good rhythm happening and getting a good squat happening, especially if you want to build up to free barbell. Yeah. I think it's a great machine
just builds the confidence in that movement pattern, whether it's something you can accompany your squat as an accessory or something that you can do instead of a squat. Something if I'm coming into a bodybuilding show and don't really want to get under a barbell 3 weeks out, the potential risks of that, or can't get the intensity, I can substitute it for a machine like that where I can still go to failure safely in a squat movement pattern.
Well, I think we're going to do part B with you because I've got questions we haven't even done. But
never forgive, never forget. Twisted thoughts run through my head. They used to diss, now show respect. Still show disrespect. Not that type to pout and pose. Boy, and I pose a threat. Say how it is, my mouth has no filter. Still yelling no effect.
Let's go over the body quickly and then we'll get you to you. So when we say we get over the body, I'll give you a body part, one exercise, sets and reps.
Perfect.
Very simple. Traps.
I can't go, see, I'm caught between here because if we're just going to isolate the traps, I would always pick a shrug variation.
Yep. Sets and reps.
But if I'm going to pick something that's going to build the traps up significantly over a period of time, Can't go past a barbell deadlift. I mean, the barbell deadlift's one of the biggest exercises for traps. I mean, where does the traps end and start? The trap starts at the base of your skull and ends at T12, halfway down your back.
Oh.
If we're talking about upper traps, shrugs, we're talking about whole traps, which is basically
A deadlift.
covers most of your trapezius.
Fucking starting deadlifts.
Your trapezius muscles go from the base of your occipital all the way to T12, which is halfway through your back. So it's a large muscle. So shrugs are just going to train the upper portion of your traps, whereas deadlift is going to be training the whole trapezius.
Is that how you can get a really thick back too?
Yep.
Okay. How many sets and reps of squats?
Of squats,
Yeah. Deadlifts.
Look, volume for deadlifts, I would put that as 5 to 8. Most people would think volume is 10, 20, but for deadlifts, the technique breaks down after about 8 reps or so. 5 to 8 is a good rep range for deadlifts, and I don't go more than 2 to 3 working sets at that.
Okay. Redelts.
Rear delts, reverse pec deck. That's one of my favorite exercises.
Sets and reps?
I like higher reps and sets on that, so I'll do 2 to 3 working sets of anywhere between 12 to 25 reps.
Okay. Side delts?
Can't go past a standing dumbbell side lateral raise. I like the arms just in front of the body, so not directly out to the side. I like them about 10, 15 degrees. That just lines up with your shoulder blade a bit nicer. Again, ranging 2 to 3 working sets, ranging from anywhere from 8 when the weight's quite heavy. I've gone all the way up to 30 with those, depending.
And sets?
It depends. If you can do more than 2 working sets, I'd probably question how much weight you had on that.
Okay.
So if you can do more than 2 working sets, I would probably say that the weight was a little bit too light, but 2 to 3 working sets depending on the weight.
Front delts?
I don't actually isolate front delts. I get my front delt development purely from dumbbell, barbell, or machine shoulder pressing.
Yep.
I
Shoulder
do
pressing.
a lot of barbell incline work, dumbbell chest press, barbell chest press. So a lot of my chest pressing movement patterns is where I develop the front delts, but I don't do any direct isolation work on the front delt.
What do you do for pressing? Like how many sets, reps?
Always, my protocols are always depending. If the weight's heavy, really heavy, I'll do 1 working set and then 1 back down set where I've dropped the weight and add a pause in, for example. But if the weight's not extremely heavy, I'll do always 2 working sets and potentially a back down if necessary.
Okay. Back?
Back's a good one. I've got, it depends because the back's such a large muscle group. If we're talking about, again, traps being that mid-back part, deadlifting, bent rowing, they're things. But if we're talking about lats specifically, you can't go past, basic of a chin-up.
The chin-ups.
You can't really go past the chin-up.
I've ignored the chin, but I've taken on chin-ups again. But it's amazing how much strength you lose when you haven't done it for a while.
It's a great exercise.
It is a great exercise. I won't go sets and reps on that now. Chest.
Barbell incline. My favorite exercise.
Barbell. Wow. Most people go dumbbells, but you've gone barbell.
No, barbell always. Dumbbells. I love dumbbells, but I'll always pick a barbell.
I know, because Arnold had a big chest with barbells.
I'll always pick a barbell.
Bicep.
Again, I like a standing dumbbell curl, alternate dumbbell curl with
Barbell?
supination. I love the one we can
Or dumbbells. Dumbbells.
I like
Supination.
supinate
Yeah.
dumbbell.
Tricep.
Anything overhead, you get the stretch. I like a French press. French press is a seated easy bar overhead extension.
Yep. Okay.
Overhead extension or skull crusher.
Skull crusher. Very nice. Forearms.
I think forearms get enough indirect work from all your rowing actions. So whether it be heavy lifting, and I say lift heavy for forearms.
But forearms, everyone trained them in the 80s and 70s. Abs.
Abs, look, depending on, we've got our deep ab muscles, which are responsible for kind of that deep core, keeping your back safe, all that rehab stuff. But then we've got our superficial abs. I'll like, just a basic cable crunch or a hanging leg raise. Dead hanging leg raise is something I love. But making sure that you're not just isolating the hip flexors. It's finding a way to get your core involved.
How many? Let's go. I want to go sets and reps on that. How many would you go for a good ab exercise?
Again, it can range. If you do something heavy, you can range again from 8 to 10. But if you keep it light and want to pump the volume, you go all the way up to 30 reps. Okay. I'm very with reps. I think the science has shown that anywhere from 5 to 30 reps is that range for hypertrophy. So it just depends what goal or where it's at in your program.
Okay. It's quads.
My heart says squats because I think that's an overall leg developer. But I feel like you can always go to absolute failure on either a leg press or a hack squat. But I think having a combination of the 3 in your program. But you need to be able to squat, in my opinion, to get the full leg development.
I think I have all right quads, right, for my because I think I'm 84 kilos, but I think my quad size is pretty good. But I think it all came down from squats. Squats was
Yep,
everything.
they're-
It was always. I think it was just because it was scary.
Yeah.
Hammies.
Hamstrings are, you can't go past a lying leg curl. And I see you got glutes there. So I put glutes and hamstrings together because I'll do a lying leg curl for the knee flexion part of the hamstring, but then the hip extension part of the hamstring, you can't go past an RDL or Romanian deadlift.
Round deadlift.
Yeah.
Okay. Calves. I won't talk about if you guys should do hip thrust because we'll.
That's a whole other topic.
Calves?
Standing calf raise, can't go wrong.
And standing and tibialis.
Tibialis anterior on the front of the shin.
I train them.
I see. I've never directly trained them. In rehab, we do some of that work. But again, I feel that if you've got a full rounded calf routine, that muscle should.
Yeah. Okay. Well, tell us where we can find you.
Bodybuilding Physio at Instagram. Instagram. Paddo Performance is another Instagram of ours. Barbell Bros is another one with our podcast.
Yeah, I'm
But
sorry I didn't bring that up.
No, that's
enough
okay.
because,
No, it's okay because I got a duck. I think I'm late for my client.
You are, unfortunately.
Oh my god.
I want to say thank you.
Yeah, all good.
I really
Thank you for
appreciate it.
having
I think these questions need to be asked. I think we'll get you on again. We've ever only done that once, but I think we can do it again, Chris. I think we can get you on maybe
Yeah, get me
maybe
on.
during just around the summertime.
Yeah,
when we're a bit tanned
you just
up.
let me know. Yeah, awesome.
I'd love to have you on, but
Appreciate it.
say
Thank you very much. Thanks for
Cheers.
today.
Oh, my
was
pleasure.
awesome.
My pleasure.